Did you hear something that sounded like this?
Yes, exactly that. But without the pain on my face.
Don't worry, we're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you.
Howdy guys, I'm filming this on July 10th, and Victoria is just about to go into lockdown for the second time, so for completely unrelated reasons, I have decided to do a third episode where I will be reviewing one of the comedy films listed on Wikipedia's list of films considered the worst of all time. However, unlike Freddy Got Fingered and That's My Boy, this was not a film which was made to be as offensive to the concept of good taste as those movies were. This is a film which the star actually made because he wanted to make a family-friendly comedy that his kids would be able to see. I don't think he would want his kids to see this movie though.
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host Jukebox Harry, and today we are looking at one of the most absolutely eccentric comedies of all time. I remember seeing clips of this movie as a kid and laughing my ass off at how ridiculous and juvenile it was, so as a child it did have some appeal to me. As an adult it was an entirely different experience. I watched this film all the way through for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't all that impressed with it because it was above and beyond ridiculous and not much in a way that it actually made me laugh. It had a lot of moments that were lowbrow on a standard that I'm not all that familiar with, but it also had so many of them, it really overwhelmed me. And after watching that movie, I ended up making a Simpsons meme about it. My friend Benji saw the meme and was like, what movie is this from? And we decided to watch it together. The Master of Disguise is a 2002 comedy produced by Happy Madison Films, Adam Sandler's production company. And that does not mean that if you like Adam Sandler, you'll like this film. That means that if you do not like Adam Sandler, you will hate this film with a burning passion. It's also the first and only film ever directed by Perry Anderlin Blake, the production designer behind nearly all of Adam Sandler's films from Happy Madison. And the fact that he's a production designer is very obvious in this movie, because he does that job well. As far as directing goes, well, it's a good thing he didn't quit his other job. One of the production companies on this film is called Out of the Blue Entertainment, which is very oddly prescient. And the intro credits play out on pages of a flipbook with a bunch of random cartoon creations having their bodies and heads switched around to create different abominations that are apparently meant to be disguise jokes. This lasts 3 long minutes, leaving only 77 minutes of film to follow. Then we zoom in on the Millennium Puzzle necklace from Yu-Gi-Oh! To title text, which outlines that throughout history, one particular family mastered the art of disguise and used it to combat evil.
This is their story.
Yeah, I could have figured out that this was their story for myself, but based on the fact that the humor in this film is so juvenile, I expect that it was intended for a very lowbrow audience, maybe an audience that would need that explained to them.
Oh, stop her!
Yeah, why did they all just stop there? They chase after Bo Derek, because remember, this is 1979 and the last time she was relevant. She's meant to be 23 here, but in the year 2002 she's 46, twice that age, and it's not subtle. The entire scene tries to reenact her famous slow-motion running scene from the 1979 film 10, which I think became the inspiration for the entirety of Baywatch. And this doesn't make sense, but a lot of things about this scene don't make sense, so I'm gonna wait until it's finished playing out in its entirety before I discuss it. She jumps from a ledge and glides like Batman down to the ground before entering a car where she strips her face away to reveal that she's actually Thanos Dad. I have nothing but respect for James Brolin as an actor, but this is the 3rd time one of his movies has popped up on Delightfully Devilish. What is happening?
It's a time your son is told of his destiny.
This is a no life for my son. I will never tell him of his true destiny.
And that marks the end of the scene, so let's unpack everything wrong with it. Number 1, that line he just said, it's pretty irrelevant, but whatever his son's true destiny is, he's gonna follow through on that, because destiny is predetermined, it's unavoidable.
Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same.
There you go, Thanos Dad, your real life son put it perfectly, so even if you don't tell your character's son what his true destiny is, he's gonna follow through on it.
I am inevitable.
Second of all, who the hell was Brent Spiner's character? What the hell was Thanos Dad doing there? And what was actually happening in this scene? This scene was so focused on the joke of, haha, remember when Bo Derek was a thing, that it actually completely forgot to put any storytelling in there. Third of all, why the hell was Bo Derek there? This is meant to be a kid's movie. Kids do not have any idea who Bo Derek is. And if you want to say this is a joke that's meant to appeal to adults, why don't you actually tell a joke that's going to make adults laugh? There's no build up to this scene, it's not clever. No matter what age you are, this isn't funny. What is funny though, is that Bo Derek's 50 seconds of screen time in this film earned her a Golden Raspberry Award nomination for Worst Supporting Actress, the only nomination that this film actually got from the Razzies. She was perfectly fine in the role, it was more of just a fuck you from the Golden Raspberry Awards because she won Worst Actress on 3 prior occasions. She also got nominated for Worst Supporting Actress in 1995 for her role in Tommy Boy, and she was fine in that film. The Razzies just don't like her. Then we transition to America, present day. But look at the fucking grammar and punctuation on that. It's just 3 words plonked there without proper structure or capital letters. When the filmmakers can't even get 2nd grade English right, you know that's a bad sign.
Fabrizio decided to keep the family legacy a secret from his son.
And that's another bad sign. Voiceover narration is considered to be one of the laziest types of storytelling in any film, so it does not surprise me that this movie would use it, particularly considering the standard of storytelling they showed us from the intro scene. We see the protagonist when he's young, played by Cole Sprouse in a science lab accident. Fuck this kid. I auditioned for the role of Jughead on Riverdale and Cole Sprouse stole it from me. I want to punch him in the teeth nearly as much as I want to punch the baby from Ice Age.
Something about her reminds me of my mama.
This is a kid's movie. Some stupid child skates right towards a fallen sign without even trying to avoid it and then falls over. It is really hard to find a movie where kids get injured and I'm not laughing, but this film did it.
Why don't you do one of your funny voices and cheer the kid up?
What an excellent idea, Bernardo. Yes, yes. I do for you now a scene from the hit motion picture Shrek. You ready? Okay. Why don't you get away from me, donkey? What you talk about get away from you? I'm making waffles.
But that's not the way it happened.
The wonderful irony of this scene is that the actor Dana Carvey, he started his career starring alongside Mike Myers in Wayne's World. Mike Myers is the voice of Shrek. The Master of Disguise also came out a week after Mike Myers' film Austin Powers in Goldmember, another spy-themed comedy. So while Mike Myers was off concluding the successful blockbuster comedy trilogy of the Austin Powers movie, Dana Carvey was here, trying to rip off his success from Shrek. Dana Carvey does have some good moments of mimicry in this film, but his semi-ironic attempt at an impression just reminds me of Aaron Gox doing a Simpsons impression.
Homer? What have you done now, Homer? You've stuffed it up again.
Don't!
I see you like my dog. Yes, his name is The Cuteness.
And if you thought that name was bad, just wait a few seconds.
My name is Pistachio Disguisey.
What kind of parent gives their kid a stupid cunt name like that?
Apparently one of the jokes in this film is that everyone has an objectively terrible name. To make the character Pistachio even more of a stereotype, he's a clumsy waiter in an Italian restaurant.
You are my son, you understand? And I will always be proud of you.
That must be really heartwarming because I'm sure Dana Carvey's real father would not be saying that to him after he saw this movie.
You should have gone to Burger King.
Look, pistachios, the silly voices, the making faces, it was fun for like 1 second, okay?
Only 1 second?
That line right there, that perfectly encapsulates this entire movie, and it's also a strong argument as to why this film should never have existed in the first place, although I am glad that it does. Thanos' dad and his wife get kidnapped, but Pistachio's grandfather rocks up in a scene designed to resemble The Exorcist. Remember, it's a kid's movie!
I came to help you, Pistachio.
Help me what?
Pistachio, even before your parents got kidnapped, nothing was going right for you in your life. Whatever help he is here to offer, just take it.
And your father, my son.
My father, your son. Holy cannoli, you are my sister.
What a strange person.
We get a series of skits depicting the Disguisey family using their abilities throughout history as statues to stop thieves, or as cherry trees for some reason. My personal favorite is them using their skills to make Abraham Lincoln seem more charismatic.
Oh, yeah! Let's party! Hit it, boys! I like to move it, move it. I like to move it. Vote for me! We'll get funky this year!
That joke actually did make me laugh. It's ridiculously absurd and a big fuck you to Abraham Lincoln, but it worked.
Sacred book of the Disguisey way.
Like a Boy Scout handbook, right?
You cannot compare this book to anything else known to man.
I can. It sounds like the thieviest raccoonist from Sly Cooper. Pistachio begins training to become a master of disguise over the course of a montage depicting terrible aesthetics, a floating fat suit, and a bad schoolgirl disguise.
We both know you were the woman that night in Palermo.
Yeah, we still have no idea what happened that night or what set things in motion, but the film does not care enough to tell us.
Because of you, I spent 20 years in prison.
And didn't even age a day, the complete opposite of Bo Derek, who aged 23 years in 1979. Apparently he's taken Thanos' dad's wife hostage to make him do his bidding. Is the joke there meant to be that the fight isn't believable at all, or did the filmmakers honestly just think that we would all find fart jokes funny? Whatever it is, I'm not laughing, I'm cringing, and to make things worse, it's actually the start of a recurring joke where Brent Spiner farts every time he laughs. It's also the only thing the actor does that comes close to being any kind of actual joke. One big issue in The Master of Disguise is that Dana Carvey is the only actual comedian to have a major role in the film. James Brolin and Brent Spiner are both actors, as are all the other key players. This means that none of the major actors actually have any comic timing, so none of them end up bouncing off Dana Carvey. No chemistry is created. So he ends up being the only one trying to be lighthearted in a film full of people being ridiculously serious, making the annoying nuances to his character a lot more aggressive. Then we go back in time to a period where blackface was considered funny.
Open the sesame! Open the sesame!
Stop that!
None of the filmmakers can look back on this scene with any pride whatsoever.
It's time for you to learn about the invisible energy field that bonds all disguises past and present.
I'm fairly certain Harold Gould is literally reading his lines off cue cards in this scene. The blackface gets worse as Dana Carvey puts on another silly voice.
I am Prince Lalejama from the Ringy-Dingy Heights near Bombay, Calcutta, and New Delhi, India.
I love racism!
Okay, I didn't mind that joke. There are a few times in The Master of Disguise where the jokes get just absurd enough that it's funny. Still, I probably would have used this song.
The disguises do not believe in hitting with a closed fist. You must always hit with an open hand. You make your point, but you give the man his dignity.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
Uh-oh! Someone had some daddy issues.
Hey guys, thanks for letting me borrow the Constitution.
Are you kidding? You're Michael Johnson, the fastest man alive.
I'm glad they clarified that. I have no idea who Michael Johnson is, and honestly, I don't have enough faith that kids from 2002 would either. And apparently, just because he's a celebrity, the government is willing to relinquish the US Constitution to him. And even though he was the fastest man alive in 2002, when he sprints to the car, they decide to speed it up. That's actually kind of insulting when you think about it. When he gets to the car, we find out that this is one of Thanos' dad's disguises. So apparently, he can adopt the abilities of whoever he disguises himself as now? Seriously, the villain's idea was to kidnap a master of disguise, have him disguise himself as a bunch of contemporary relevant celebrities, and then get him to steal a bunch of iconic artifacts. I know writing on this film was not a strong suit, but Jesus Christ. The faces of those two actors were the faces of Benji and I when we were watching this movie.
I'm going to get an assistant.
The two invite a bunch of people to apply for the assistant job, but Grandfather inexplicably refuses to consider any of the applicants. Bradley Cooper's ex-wife joins the cast as the mother of the child.
Sweetie, go practice your ollies, and I'll see you later, okay?
No mother would ever use the term ollies, and if you actually watch closely, the kid never does any ollies.
Fucking liar!
She ends up applying for the job.
What's it pay?
Hey, what about being paid in honor, dignity, pride?
Honor, dignity, pride, in its crib.
Actually, I need cash.
This cat has claws. Me like it.
I'm sure the other 50 would have asked to be paid for it as well. That's not a particularly remarkable trait. Pistachio and Grandpa talk negatively about the size of her hips because on top of blackface, apparently women's bodies are something this film likes to joke about.
Anche un certo je ne sais quoi. Gesundheit.
God bless you.
I don't know where they come up with this shit. It's pretty fucking funny.
You sicken me.
Pistachio goes searching through the dumpster where they probably fished out the original script for this film.
I dated a guy who used to smoke these. This is a handmade cigar from the Turtle Club.
There we go.
That seemed unnecessary.
Do you remember that thing you once said about the guy you used to date from the Turtle Club?
Oh my god.
Perhaps we should pay a visit to this Turtle Club.
Enter the most iconic scene from the film. Dana Carvey disguised himself as some kind of man turtle because he took the name too literally.
Turtle? Are you a member of the Turtle Club?
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly, but am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
No! Dude! No f***ing way! Look! They put a little suit on him!
Is he okay?
He's fine.
He's fine, Turtle.
Apparently that's the sound turtles make.
Turtle, 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 turtle.
Imagine co-writing the scene with Dana Carvey. Okay, Dana, so I'm thinking a scene in a club here. Now, what do you think the theme of the scene should be?
I like turtles.
Is he okay?
Everyone just has to keep asking that.
Hey, baby. Can I buy you a drink? Maybe some pond water for your friend?
So I know the point of that line is we're not meant to find it funny, but I genuinely believe that even the actor doesn't find it funny himself. That's just bad dialogue.
Turtle! Where'd he go?
Huh? We can add bending the laws of reality to this film now. Earlier I mentioned making a Simpsons meme based on this film, which inspired Benji and I to watch it together. It was this meme, and honestly I'm pretty proud of it. The best thing about this scene is it was actually shot on September 11th, 2001. I kid you not. Imagine having that conversation with Dana Carvey. Hey Dana, where were you when 9/11 happened? When you actually think about this scene, he's meant to be a master of disguise, but his costume is the most objectively conspicuous one, which doesn't even actually get them into the club. It's just his assistant's flirting that does that. Thanos' dad dresses up as Jesse Ventura to steal the Liberty Bell, because it's a kid's movie. And somehow they managed to fit it in the back of Brent Spiner's car. Yep, it just keeps coming, and it gets less funny every single time. And by the end of the film, you won't believe just how bad it is. We meet Jennifer's boyfriend.
Lay off my lady, you freak.
Jesus, all the men in this film are just terrible people. Even Pistachio keeps making inappropriate comments about the size of Jennifer's butt.
Your hindquarters are hideously scrawny.
What?
Man.
We learn that the villain's entire goal is to steal every artifact and store them in an underground lair. Great character development. They go to seek out Brent Spiner with Pistachio now disguising himself as a cartoonish old woman.
You're a tall drink of water, and I just love moisture.
I have never heard anybody say the word moisture as distinctively as old female redhead Dana Carvey.
My name is Gammy. Gammy Num Num.
Devlin Bowman.
Don't be ashamed of your feelings. Your desires are perfectly normal, I assure you.
What desires?
Well, guess what, Backstreet Boy? This is one Girl Scout that isn't content to be the Malcolm in your middle.
That's fucking awesome!
Nice to meet you, Bardsey.
We're never going to make babies.
Fuck off. I'm having some South American art dealers to my house on Sunday.
We don't want to go anywhere with you, Melonhead.
And again, fuck off.
I'd love it if you joined us.
And I'd love it if you'd shut up.
That's a hat trick. Fuck off.
Look out for the Italian man.
We have Dana Carvey playing an Italian man playing a redhead white woman insulting an Italian man who is actually American.
Layers!
I'm just not comfortable with the new plan.
Oh, that's where you draw the line, huh?
Some severely lazy narration tells us that the plan is to go to Spiner's house where Pistachio will distract him while Jennifer searches for clues. How's he gonna do that, you ask?
Say hello to my little friend.
Scarface! Cause it's a kid's movie!
Have you got a little wiener and some tiny nuts?
Sorry.
You know, I could tell just by looking at you. You had a little wiener and some tiny nuts. Oh yeah.
Potty mouth Scarface in a kid's movie.
Hold up. Hold up.
Breakdancing potty mouth Scarface in a kid's movie.
I'm telling you, man, Scooby-Doo is computer generated.
No way. It looks so real.
What the hell does that mean?
That means whatever the hell you want it to mean.
What's up?
I see a dark-haired guy run by here.
Because 2002 kids just love Jaws, right?
29 kids go in the water. 22 kids come out of the water.
Water? What are you doing, Roger? Water? Well, whatever he's doing, it doesn't sound genuine.
Pistachio runs away, and when the others give chase, we learn that he's disguised himself as grass and cow poo.
I told you, there he is!
He's the master of disguise.
Hey Benji, why did he pull his mask down when he started running?
Why, Harry, it's so that they can't see where he is.
Benji gets it.
Look at me! I'm invisible!
He comes back as what I think is a buck-toothed German.
And I'm here looking for Miss Jennifer Baker.
It's bad. But when the guards fetch Brent and Jennifer, they come back to his best disguise in the film.
Suave, Terry Suave's the name. London, Scotland Yard, that sort of thing.
This character has a British accent and a penis of average size.
Minty hippo, what is that?
Well, I could tell you, but it'd be a real ding-dong, ding-a-ding-a-ding-wad. Hut one, hut two, I need a Charleston chew. Get it, got it, doubt it.
I'm not sure what this is referencing, but it feels like Q from 007. It feels and sounds very far from Dana Carvey. This is actually a really good portrayal of his talents.
What? This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do.
So a week after watching this movie, my dojo opened up and I went back to teaching karate. I had one kid who would not quite down in the class, and after having just seen this movie, I actually looked at him and I said, Alex, this is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do. That means dialogue from this movie has actually entered into my vernacular. That's just terrible. It turns out Jennifer's boyfriend is cheating on her with Pistachio's love interest, which leads to a fight scene where Pistachio slaps the absolute shit out of him. Did he steal those cards or put them back? Pistachio wins Jennifer's affection by beating up her boyfriend, because that's all women are interested in, physical violence. Thanos' dad then disguised himself as Jessica Simpson. Remember when she was a thing? Yeah, me neither. Somehow NASA is willing to lend her the Apollo lunar module. Now, I'm not sure if the joke here is that NASA faked the moon landing and they gave her the model they used to film the fake moon landing, or they actually went into space and actually got the module off the moon. It's never explained. But either way, I'm not laughing. And to make matters worse, James Brolin actually starred in the film Capricorn 1, which was about NASA faking a landing on Mars. But apparently in a kids movie which references Scarface and Jaws, they couldn't even be bothered to make a subtle reference to one of the highlights of James Brolin's career. But there's plenty of room for Brent Spiner's lame fart jokes. The only thing funny about the fart jokes in this movie was watching Benji cringe every single time they made another lame fart joke. That did make me laugh. We get a look at Brent Spiner's collection of stolen artifacts.
How about that, David?
And they shot this just above the penis because this is a kid's movie.
I'm going to crazy glue this to Fabrizio's head. Then tomorrow, I'm going to push him over a cliff. Everyone will think I'm dead. It's called the perfect crime.
Ever heard of an autopsy, dickhead? The moment the coroner peels his face off and reveals that it's not actually you, you will become the #1 person of interest. Pistachio sneaks in disguised as a cherry pie.
Cherry pie man, get him!
He even spits cherries at the henchmen as weapons. Spiner is selling all the artifacts on black market eBay. Because remember, back in 2002, the internet was a new thing, so this was an innovative joke, apparently. Pistachio slaps a few of the henchmen, which scares the rest away, and Spiner reveals his scheme before running off. Yeah, you can tell they shot this scene originally just to be one fart joke and then added the sound effect in post. Thanos' dad has been brainwashed to think that he's actually Brent Spiner, leading to a standoff atop the lunar module.
Coming, stuck in butt crack.
Simpsons did it! Simpsons did it!
Thanos' dad snaps out of it and literally shakes his disguise off. The narration tells us that they free Mama even though they forgot to film it, and we get a Michael Bay-esque slow-motion walking shot. And the film ends with Pistachio rocking up in a pretty good George Bush disguise.
This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do.
He slaps Spiner and does an entirely unnecessary flip, which doesn't actually add anything before the man just falls into the pool.
Is he dead?
And then at 72 minutes, the credits start playing. With the 3 minutes of intro credits, the Master of Disguise only has 69 minutes of actual narrative, with 8 minutes of deleted scenes and outtakes to make it to feature length. This includes an inexplicable scene with a caveman and a dinosaur, and a clip of Brent Spiner visibly dissatisfied with his co-stars. There's even a post-credit scene where a midget dressed like Super Mario jumps out of the slapping dummy and hits Pistachio. Because why wouldn't there be? Is The Master of Disguise a bad film?
Yes, exactly that.
Plenty of films have achieved a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The Master of Disguise actually has a 1% rating. That means it has upwards of 99 reviews, only one of them being good. The Master of Disguise is frequently cited as one of the worst films of all time, and that makes perfect sense, because even the few good things about this film are still bad things. One of them is that Dana Carvey's performance is incredibly dedicated. The entire film is built around the fact that he's good at mimicry, and the film shows him playing countless different odd characters to different levels of success and irony. But unfortunately, the script doesn't actually give him anything good to work with, which is made worse by the fact that Dana Carvey himself actually wrote it. Carvey displayed his talent for mimicry in countless skits on Saturday Night Live, but he was working with actual comedians there and actual directors. In this film, the rest of the cast are mostly just actors working with material which is far beneath them. He parades around as the lone goofball in a film full of pretentious, paper-thin dramatic characters, evoking the feeling of what Roger Ebert calls a party guest who thinks he is funny and is wrong. And the actual personality of the character Pistachio Disguise is even more dim-witted and annoying than even the worst Adam Sandler character. Still, Dana Carvey is a man of talented mimicry, and I will give him credit for that. Unfortunately, the next film he appeared in after this was 2011's Jack and Jill. He went from appearing in no films for 9 years to appearing in another film considered one of the worst comedies of all time. The other thing worth praising about this film is the production design. It's what the director's good at. But again, this is another thing that the film leans too heavily on. The Master of Disguise is composed of an endless series of skits as well as flashbacks and cutaway gags which keep on going to different ridiculous settings. There's a whole number of silly situations which have been set on convincing sets, all on a budget of 16 million, almost a third of what it cost to make Rob Schneider's The Animal from the previous year. And that film was way worse than The Master of Disguise. Even the audience on Rotten Tomatoes agrees with that. Blake's skill as a production designer allows us to have a lot of versatile settings for the film, but they always try to overcompensate for the fact that there's nothing more than 2 minutes worth of material in every scene. The Master of Disguise feels like a collection of rejected Saturday Night Live sketches which have been strung together by a very loose plot and a very weak narration which is obviously added to fill in the gaps that the director left out. Whereas at other times they don't even explain what's happening. Did you ever figure out what was going on in that intro scene? I sure haven't. The weird sense of humor in The Master of Disguise is a weird blend of comedy which is incredibly lowbrow and juvenile, aimed to appease audiences that are way too young to understand good comedy, and a series of pop culture references that they'll never understand. You might laugh unironically once or twice, but most of the time you'll just be cringing and trying not to turn the film off. The only way to describe the good feeling you get from watching Master of Disguise is the same feeling you get from watching the film Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. It's a film where you watch it thinking, oh my god, I can't believe someone actually thought this was funny, and you laugh at that. You laugh at this film, not with it. If you honestly want to enjoy this film, watch it with a friend that you can make sarcastic comments with. Watch it under the influence of some kind of substance, like alcohol or speedball. Benji and I watched this film with a few beers as a double feature with Freddy Got Fingered. It was a tour de force of unconventional comedy. But I honestly consider Freddy Got Fingered to be an objectively good film. The Master of Disguise, I can only enjoy it on an ironic level. And as a final note, I think it's funny that James Brolin was in this film, because his wife Barbara Streisand is one of the most successful women in Hollywood history. His son became the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the villain in the highest grossing film of all time. He's also an Academy Award nominated actor. James Brolin, he had to invite the two of them to the premiere of this movie. He had to make them sit through that. And he is a perfectly fine actor, and he's perfectly fine in this film. But this is probably the last time he did a relevant movie. The Master of Disguise gets 3 turtles out of 10. You can enjoy this film on an ironic level, especially if you're with a friend making sarcastic drunken commentary. But its incredibly low standard of juvenile humor, combined with its overall lack of storytelling sensibility and its incredibly intense level of cringe, this is not a movie you want to recommend to anyone who wants genuine entertainment. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If you want to see any more episodes of the show, please hit that subscribe button. If there are any movies you want me to discuss on the show, please leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. Please stay safe and peace.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?